Hey guys, Crank here, Crank's Fab Shop. Today we're back on the LS Swap G30 van, also known as Herbert.
Now I want more.
So today we're going to be talking about some of the issues I've ran into with the wiring harness, as well as we're going to do a little tuning on it. Now I have already been to the dyno, and I'll put some clips in here. So I didn't get very many clips of the dyno tuning process. I am still having some issues. I have been in contact with the tuner, but that's what we're going to be doing today. Why not? I've got HB tuners. I've got a laptop. We're going to go out and we're going to play around with this thing.
That's what she said.
That's what I'm going to be showing you today. We're also going to try to diagnose some wiring issues from our cheap Chinese wiring harness because, yeah, we ran into some issues, which I believe I've said it before in some earlier videos that it was an $80 wiring harness. I wasn't expecting it to be perfect, and it certainly was not perfect. That's okay because we'll just work on it. We'll fix it. So some of the stuff I've already fixed on the wiring harness I've talked about is they did send us a harness for a 4L60 and not the 4L80 that is in Herbert.
Come on, Herbert, rope this calf.
We've got that fixed. We added some wires, pinned some stuff to the ECM, and now we're shifting. Fine. It's good. But now we're still having issues. We've got a pretty bad parasitic loss. So we're going to try to find that today. As well as whenever you turn the key off, I've mentioned this before in the video, it doesn't shut off all the time. So it's really like 75% of the time, you turn the key off and it just keeps running.
60% of the time, it works every time.
That doesn't make sense.
So we're going to try to figure out what's going on with that today as well. So let's get to it. All right, so we're out here with Herbert. I do have the battery disconnected because, like I said, we've got a really bad parasitic draw, and it will kill the battery in like 1 to 2 days. I mean, she's sucking some juice.
What the hell is even that?
So we'll get this battery hooked up and go from there, see what's happening. All right, there we go. Got that battery hooked up. She's done. See that, but we're idling, and it's extremely cold, but it is I mean, we're idling at 24, 25 to 1 AFR. She's stumbling a bit. Yeah, she's struggling to. Just doing that, we're getting off retard.
Make them say,
Just trying to stay, just getting her a little above idle. She's not retarded. I mean, it's freaking super lean, so yeah, what do we expect with that? don't follow me. You all can see the laptop, but now we got moved, warmed up. She's idling a little better. Still really lean, but alright guys, I don't know if you can see that. So we've got our idle air fuel down to around 16 to 1, 17 to 1 by doing a little mass airflow sensor tuning. I'm not exactly sure what I'm exactly doing, but using a couple YouTube channels out there to try to figure it out. Goat rope tuning, I believe, is one of them I'm really using a lot, going to. But yeah, let's run down the road and see what happens. Little fat right through, well, 14.1. She gets a little fat through there though. She drops down pretty good. I know he had it tuned at wide open throttle to get down to like 12 to 1. But we'll see. So far it seems to be doing a little better as far as the drivability. Before we started messing with the mass airflow tuning, it was extremely lean, off the idle, and even with partial throttle, extremely lean, and then it would go pretty fat. And you could tell there was a little bit of a shudder, a little jerk whenever it did hit that. So let's see here what we were looking at. Shut this off for a second and we'll make a little trip and see what it does, see what it looks like. We are doing some data logging, so we'll see what that looks like when we're done. All right, so we are back on the lift here in the shop. We've been driving around for a little while, tuning the mass airflow sensor. So we do have it. I believe I showed you all, I did a little recording while I was out driving, that we do have our AFRs down a little bit and it's driving a lot smoother. We're still having some small issues, but we're working on that. I came back to the shop because my laptop was dying. So we had to get back and get that plugged in. So it's currently plugged in. So I figured while we're waiting on that, we'll go ahead and work on some of the wiring issues that we're having on old Herbert here.
Oh, don't make me beg now.
You're funny.
So got the battery tender plugged in because, like I said, we've got a pretty good draw on this thing, and yeah, we need to figure that out. As well as it won't shut off with the key for whatever reason. So, see if we can get that figured out. All right, so as far as the not shutting off issue, I was talking to a buddy, and he said that it may be that the alternator is backfeeding something and causing it to continue to run. So I have just disconnected the alternator wire there instead of trying to get, you know, way back up into there, which I could get to all that stuff pretty easy if I took the doghouse off, but it's sort of a pain. So if I don't have to, I'm not going to. But I got that, and we are going to remove this wire as well. So there we go. So now we should be able to start the van. It won't be charging. We'll just let it run for a second, shut the key off, and see if that does anything. So I guess we'll find out. So let's fire up here. Oh. All right, moment of truth. That is not it, because the key is out. All right, we may have found something. I was testing the amp draw on the battery, and it was, 0.724. Started pulling fuses out, and I started with the Chinese wiring harness fuse box, of course, because I wasn't having the issue before with a parasitic draw. Before the LS swap, whenever I got to the ALDL constant, which I believe is only supposed to power the OBD2 port, when I pulled that fuse out, all that draw dropped. Zeros across the board. So we're going to leave that fuse out. I'm about to go in for the night, and we're going to come back tomorrow. I took the battery charger off. I'm going to come back tomorrow, and we're going to test the battery to see if we've if it's dropped any. Let me see if I can get this set up for you all so you can see it here without dropping stuff and breaking it. All right. So currently our battery is at, whoa. Well, I just messed that up, didn't I? Did it wrong. Hopefully I didn't mess my thing up here. All right, there we go. Well, you can't see it, can you? There you go, 12.81. That's where we're at. Now I'm leaving the amp undone just to see. Leave that out of the mix as well. So if the battery doesn't drop overnight, then we know it's either that wire there for the amplifier, or it's this fuse right here. So one thing I will say that I don't care for with this wiring harness is, you can see here, it shows our fuse box with the relays, fuel pump and ignition relay. And then it shows our different fuses and what they are, right? Well, if you look under here, this is where I have it. Well, see, it's a little dark. There's got to be a light here, though. But if you look there, yeah, that fuse box is not the same. So, not exactly the same. I don't know if it's basically take these three and put them on top of there, but that is the wire, or that is the fuse right there. That second one up, that 15. And the reason I know this is because before, when we were working on the wiring harness and trying to hook up or trying to connect our HP tuners into the OBD2 port, we weren't getting power. And I was testing the OBD2 port, and I didn't have any power to it. So I checked the fuses. That fuse was blown. That's why if you notice, that fuse is different than the others, because I have had to replace that. And that was from whenever we were doing the wiring. There was a wire that we did not use that was supposed to go to the dash or something that did touch something and blow that fuse. And, you know, now that I think about it, I was reading on the forums, a little shaky there. I was actually reading on the forums that somebody was having this similar issues I'm having, and it ended up being this fuse that was drawing. And they looked into the wiring harness, and I guess what that fuse is for is only supposed to be for the power to the OBD2 port. And it was actually tied into the tack wire, which I think is the wire that might have arced out and blown that fuse. So I think we're going to have to tear into this harness and try to figure out where those two connect. And that could be our issue. So we'll, I guess we'll jump into that tomorrow if the battery doesn't drop now that we've got that fuse out. So we'll see you all in the morning. Hey guys, I know I said I'd see you in the morning in the garage working on Herbert. Change of plans. I forgot. I had a tattoo appointment today, so I may film a little bit of that. I don't know. That's where I'm at right now, so we'll at least see you afterwards. All right, so we're finally back in the shop. Had a few things come up that I had sort of forgot about. So it is now Sunday night. The previous clips of me working on the van were from Tuesday. So had a lot of stuff going on with the family having to do, as well as the, I did have a tattoo appointment on Thursday. And let me tell you, my thigh is still swollen. So yeah, it's but that's not why I've been out here. Just had a lot of stuff already planned that I didn't realize. And so I've not gotten much work done this week like I was hoping to. Anyway, we're back in here. I've had the battery connected without a charger on it for a few days. I do have the amp unplugged or unhooked the power there. Just because we were getting some power to that. I don't know if there's capacitor in the amp or whatever like we talked about. But I did remove the fuse out of the LS wiring harness for the, what's it called? It's the ALDL or something. Basically the OBD2 port. I did see some videos on this that apparently they run multiple wires into that fuse when it should just be the one that's powering the OBD2 port. And they run it to like the tack, to the ECM, and to like the wire that goes out to the tack. And that causes issues. So let's see if this thing, there's our fuse. Let's see here. Oh, well, we've got power. Yeah, baby. Well, there's our draw. This thing is before. I don't need to let this run. All right, we still have the issue of it not shutting off whenever I turn the key off. So we gotta come up underneath here. Pull that sucker. So I pulled my fuse box out, and so it's this white wire here is the wire in question. I was hoping, I'd seen a few videos of where there was 3 wires right here to the fuse box, but there's just the one. So that means that it's tying into 3 others somewhere in that harness. I believe somebody said it was just on theirs, just a few inches.
That's what she said.
Up in the wiring harness here. So let's figure out exactly which white wire it is. I believe it may be that one, maybe that one. I don't know. There's a few white wires in here, so I'm going to look at that one and see which one it might be. Well, would you just look at that right there? So that is the number 10 pin on the red plug, and that is for the tack to go into the ECM. And yeah, there's our splice. We have 3 wires going into one. And I did look at, I was watching the Rust Hoarder Garage video. He goes into a lot of detail about these harnesses. I really wish I'd seen that before I installed this harness, because man, some of these changes that I need to be looking at and doing would have been a lot easier before I put this harness in the van. I want to cut this splice out, and basically we're going to figure out which one of these goes to the tack wire, which is just the white wire. I've still got it bundled up underneath there because I don't have a tack in the van. And then we'll figure out which one goes to that 12-volt plug and which one goes to our OBD2 port. And we're going to put those 2 together, and then we're going to run the tack just straight to the ECM. So yeah. All right, so I've got it all cut, and we're going to do a little continuity testing there to see which wire goes where. I know that's terrible. You can't hardly see. Try to get you all set up. So I've got the tack wire. Yep, so that's their tack wire. I've already found out these 2. One of them goes to the fuse box. The other goes to the OBD2 port. So I'm gonna tie these 2 together, and I'm gonna run these 2 here together, and that should solve our issue for our parasitic draw. All right, so we got all of our wires back together. I did throw in that fuse. So we are going to leave the amp unhooked to make sure we don't have a draw still with everything hooked up how it is. We had just the tack wire going to the ECM, and we have the fuse that we had pulled out going straight to the OBD2 sensor and nothing else. So hopefully that solves our issue. If I'll come back in a couple days, we'll check it. If the battery is still up, then we'll go ahead and hook the amp back up and go from there. Make sure we don't have a draw with that as well. But that's going to be all for this episode. I know it's a little short and a little scattered, but you know, ADHD, that'll happen. We'll have that with the big jobs, you know what I'm saying? I still don't know what's going on, why it won't shut off. I'm going to go to some van groups, LS swap van groups, to see if anybody's had this issue. I am running my keyed power off of the coil, and I know there's some weird stuff that can go on there, but that's everything that I read. That's for the van LS swap. That's what they said to do. So we're going to see. Worst comes to worst, I'll throw a switch to the wire that goes from the coil to the coil wire to the fuse box for the ignition. I have that little connector there, and that small tiny red wire goes over to our relay there, opens that relay, powers the rest of the fuse box. So yeah. So for whatever reason, whenever I when I turn the key off, that coil wire is still hot, still feeding power to the ECM, so she just keeps running. There is a clicking under the dash that even whenever I pull the relay out, or if I disconnect those 2 wires, if I touch them back together, or if I put that relay in pretty quick after it shuts off, you'll hear it power up the ignition again, fuel pump, all that kind of stuff. And then you'll hear a click under the dash, and then after that, it's dead. So if you know what's going on, drop a comment below. We are really close to that 1,000 subscriber mark, guys. So If you're not subscribed, please help me out. Hit that subscribe button. We're going to be doing more van stuff, more air-cooled Beetle stuff, and just some more fabrication stuff in general. I do have a few projects I'm wanting to start on this year, but we need you to hit that subscribe button to get us to 1,000 subscribers. And if you don't know, I've made a deal with my wife. She doesn't believe in us, guys. She thinks that I'm not going to get to 1,000 subscribers because she's made a deal that once I hit 1,000 subs here on YouTube, I can buy an oval window Beetle, 53 to 57. Let's make it happen. Hit that subscribe button. Until next time, we'll see you later, YouTube. Oh, come on.
Well, bye.